Welcome back to OtakuDaiKun. Dai here. It's been ages since I last made a discussion video, but new developments have sparked my curiosity. Recently, as a result of protests against Hoyoverse, a number of games from Genshin Impact to Zenless Zone Zero are having characters recast for their English dub. There's a whole swarm of drama surrounding these VAs and their demands, but rather than comment on that dumpster fire, I'd like to focus on what it all means for us as fans. Beyond this particular incident, English voice actors are recast all the time, for all sorts of different reasons. It's much more common in the West than it is for Japanese actors. I'd say it's very rare for Japanese seiyuu not to reprise their roles, even the seemingly less important ones. Likewise, it seems seiyuu are more highly regarded as celebrities than their Western counterparts. For example, and I don't have exact proof of this, but the centaur Phil from Disney's Hercules appears in the Kingdom Hearts games. His Japanese actor, Ichido Nagai, passed away prior to the release of Kingdom Hearts 3. Rather than replace him, the writers at Square Enix simply made it so Phil doesn't speak in the game. It was their way of honoring the late seiyuu. Aside from the actor dying, there are only two other situations I can think of where Japanese voices are recast. One is when an iconic franchise is remade or rebooted for a new generation. The new Tsukihime remake, Ranma 1/2, and Urusei Yatsura projects all feature an entirely fresh cast. This makes sense, as the characters are all being redefined to a certain extent. The only other time you'll hear an iconic character with a new voice is for doujin projects, where the creators can't afford or get official permission for the original voice. In the US, though, voice actors are recast for seemingly countless reasons. Regarding the Hoyoverse drama, from what I can gather, it's about select VAs associated with SAG-AFTRA choosing to put on their own protest. On their list of demands seems to be a pledge not to use their work to train AI models. I've also heard that these actors are advocating for unreasonably high wages, but I can't confirm this. Regardless, until Hoyoverse signs an agreement with SAG-AFTRA, these actors refuse to work. For a time, Hoyo was generous enough to accommodate actors during their absence, allowing certain characters to go unvoiced. However, this has gone on long enough for the studio to instead start recasting its more problematic talent with actors who aren't unionized. As far as I'm aware, this is almost exclusively an issue for actors based in America. As a case study, my favorite character, Artoria Pendragon, has had 3 different English voices over the years. For the 2006 Fate Stay Night anime by Studio Dean, Saber was voiced by Kate Higgins. I feel she's the best fit for the role, matching the Japanese actress Ayako Kawasumi very closely. I would have loved to have Kate continue voicing Saber, but for Dean's Unlimited Blade Works movie, she was recast as Michelle Ruff, who has a fantastic voice, but just doesn't match the character as well. I can't find an official reason for this recasting, but there are some theories. Like the whole Hoyoverse debacle, it's sometimes a union issue. If an actor is signed on with a union, they demand certain working conditions and wages. Studios sometimes want to produce their dubs on the cheap and specifically seek out non-union labor or any kind of crew that'll work for less. To avoid crossing the picket line, as it were, union actors may not be able to take non-union jobs even if they wanted to. I don't think this is the case for Kate Higgins, which makes me wonder if it's a scheduling conflict. Perhaps publishers wanted to release Unlimited Blade Works as quickly as possible, and she had a prior commitment that would have delayed production. Usually, from what I've heard, most voice actors are always looking for more opportunities and would never turn one down without a good reason. That said, it's possible Kate simply didn't want to reprise her role. That, or maybe the studio didn't want to go the extra mile to retain her. The truth eludes me, but it's strange, given how all the other actors from Stay Night came back for the film. Then, when UFO Table made their Fate adaptations, Aniplex of America went with a whole new crew of voices, recasting Saber a 3rd time. Her current voice, Carrie Walgren, has been there for all of this studio's work. There's just one exception, and it's for Saber's brief cameo in Fate Apocrypha. That dub, also produced by Aniplex, decided to use Michelle Ruff again. It was only for a brief moment, but why should that matter? Was it another scheduling issue? Was retaining Carrie not worth it for just a couple of lines? Again, I can only speculate. Pretty much all the new Fate dubs are directed by Tony Oliver, the voice of 𝘭𝘭𝘺. The older stuff was directed by Christy Reed. I find it strange how both these directors opted to hire Michelle Ruff for Saber, even though they already had a different main voice for her. The Fate Zero dub was interesting altogether, as it simply rearranged a number of casting decisions. Liam O'Brien, who did a great job as Archer, was shifted to playing Kari Yamato. Lex Lang, who used to play Issei, now plays Kuzuki-sensei. Doug Erholtz, who used to play Shinji, now voices Kenneth, and Grant George, who originally played Gilgamesh, now voices Diarmuid. Aside from Tony Oliver, the most enduring Fate voice is Mela Lee, the actress behind Rin Tosaka. She stayed the same across all Fate works, aside from Prisma Ilia. I suspect the only reason she didn't voice Rin there is because Prillia was dubbed in-house at Sentai Filmworks in Texas, using absolutely none of the same cast. So what's up? We've seen that voices can be recast due to union disputes, scheduling conflicts, rebrandings, or simply different studios acquiring different pieces of a larger franchise. While we can understand these circumstances and how they interfere, it's worth noting that hardly any of them apply to the Japanese cast. The same seiyuu who voiced the Rialta Nua release of Fate Stay Night have kept their roles in every production since. The only exception seems to be when an actor dies, like Miyu Matsuki, who passed away in 2015, forcing Prillia's studio to recast Magical Sapphire. In America, we'll be lucky if Carrie Walgren can keep voicing Saber for consistency. Meanwhile, in Japan, she's only ever had one actress, who still proudly voices Artoria and all of her bizarre spin-offs. It almost feels like the West just doesn't give a shit about voice acting. This problem isn't exclusive to anime either. Even the most renowned English VAs, like Tara Strong, Tom Kenny, Jim Cummings, and Don LaFontaine, are only treated as B-list celebrities. When major Hollywood animated movies release, they tend to use A-list talent to draw in viewers. However, very few of those celebrities stick around to voice their characters for budget spin-offs. Take How to Train Your Dragon, for instance. Aside from a select handful of the original cast, most of the film's talent only comes back to voice in theatrical releases. The games and TV shows employ a separate crew of understudies. Tom Hanks, who voices Woody in the Toy Story movies, has his lesser-known brother voice all of Woody's TV and video game appearances. It's as if such work is beneath him, like he's got better things to do. Crispin Freeman is a veteran voice actor who's done great work in anime, but for Hollywood at large, he's hired as an impersonator for more famous actors like Orlando Bloom. Whenever you hear Will Turner in Kingdom Hearts, that's Crispin's work. To be fair, this is sometimes because voice acting is a different skill from screen acting. If you watch a lot of Studio Ghibli dubs, you'll probably realize not all celebrities have experience dubbing. Jared Padalecki's great at playing Sam Winchester on TV, but is honestly pretty awful when trying to voice his anime counterpart. Still, even when we recognize the skill needed for this profession, it never reaches the same limelight it probably deserves. To an extent, that's what all this union drama is about. Certain voice actors, like Troy Baker, no longer do anime gigs because they're fighting to get the profession more legitimacy. Anime dubbing doesn't pay as well, and so he aims for more respectable work in AAA gaming. This attitude alone is enough to scare certain publishers. I can only imagine that's why Bandai Namco recast Troy's character Yuri Lowell for the definitive edition of Tales of Vesperia. Supposedly, they never asked him to reprise his role, either assuming he wouldn't do it, or they wouldn't have wanted to pay him what they thought he'd ask. This isn't the only time VAs have taken this stance. Helena Taylor, the original voice for Bayonetta, was recast for the series' third outing over wage disputes. Meanwhile, in Japan, Bayonetta has always been played by Atsuko Tanaka. It leads me to wonder, are Japanese VAs more willing to accept lower wages? Or are Japanese studios more willing to pay for iconic talent? Are these seiyuu more loyal to their roles? Or are studios more loyal to them? It's hard to say, but regardless of what's at work, the constant shuffling of voices in America paints a grim impression of English acting. it affects how we as fans approach our media and the expectations we have of it. From our perspective, it seems like actors don't care enough about their roles to fight for them. By that same token, it seems like studios don't care enough about their actors to do what it takes to keep them. This teaches fans not to get attached to a character's voice. If they don't care, why should we? It creates the impression that English dubs aren't of high quality. Ironically, all this protesting to make voice acting more prestigious has only made some fans less excited about the profession in general. In all fairness, fictional characters don't actually need voices. For the longest time, video game characters lacked voice acting, and entire media like manga and light novels, by their very nature, will never be voiced. By extension, our love for these characters transcends their voice acting. It almost seems like we care more about these characters than the localizers, and honestly, that's probably the case most of the time. There are some actors who have flat out stated it's only a job to them. Japanese actors, on the other hand, seem to exude a special love and passion for their characters. Whether it's economic or cultural, we notice the consistency, and it's often way more fulfilling to just stick with the Japanese voices from start to finish. Despite what I just said, though, there's still a huge market for English dubs. Crunchyroll's president recently noted that most international fans still watch their shows in dub, with less than half preferring subtitles. I'm honestly not surprised by this. When you look at what most folks are watching, it's a lot of shonen slop anyway. The way I read this is that most fans seem to be casuals who want convenience over authenticity. Mind you, I still enjoy a good dub from time to time, but I certainly don't see it as a deal breaker if something's sub-only. To a casual, though, they've come to expect a dub for things, as though the mere presence of a dub helps legitimize a show. There's a reason broadcast television never airs subtitled anime. The casual audience doesn't want to read, and immediately disassociates with a show or game if it isn't in their native language. Paradoxically, this desperate need to put out a dub contributes to making dubs seem less important. By that, I mean studios are more rushed than ever to pump out content, and are more willing to recast actors to meet deadlines. Back in the day, being a fan of subtitles carried a huge advantage. You'd get access to a show just hours after it aired in Japan. Waiting for that episode's dub could take weeks, if not months, meaning you'd always be getting Japan's leftovers. To stop this, Funimation wanted to push out the simuldub, a rushed dub meant to accompany the subtitled release. Part of this process meant casting understudies to temporarily voice roles, anticipating that a character's main voice would be added later. Actors lost the luxury of being able to voice characters on a rigid schedule. Now, they've got to rush to the recording booth whenever needed, else they'd be replaced with someone who can. That's exactly what happened with Zenless Zone Zero. The character Lycon went at least a solid month without any new English voice lines. This worsened the experience of early adopters like me, who play the story on launch day. With Lycon getting a major plot arc in the story, Hoyo simply couldn't afford to wait any longer. It was more important to have a new voice than none at all. It makes sense, but it's also frustrating. Whether you sympathize with the circumstances or not, English dubbing simply isn't as reputable as its Japanese counterpart. Roles change all the time, and the priority seems to be more about getting a dub out there rather than ensuring its optimal quality. Casual fans have learned to care more about the presence of English voices rather than having an affinity for any one actor in particular. I still feel that English dubs are worth watching from time to time, and even under harsh business models, the end result can be quite good. As a more hardcore fan, though, I usually find it more rewarding to simply stick with the original Japanese. Now, I extend the discussion to you all. How important is an English dub for you? Does it affect you when an English voice is recast? How much does a specific voice performance inform your fandom of a given character? Why do you think the Japanese voice industry is so consistent? Do you attribute that consistency to the loyalty of actors, or an industry that treats them better? Are you one of the many who find subtitles too bothersome to read, to the point where you want a dub regardless of its quality? I imagine this will be personal for each and every one of you, so please offer your thoughts in the comments below. Also, feel free to suggest any other discussion topics for a future video. Until next time, celebrate your fandom. Thanks for watching. This channel relies on support from viewers like you.
Please help us out by dropping a like and comment. Subscribe for more videos, and be sure to enable notifications. Or hit up our Discord so you never miss out on a new upload.
Most importantly, if you can spare it, please sign up as a channel member, either through YouTube, Patreon, or Subscribestar. You can find links in the description. We've got perks like exclusive content or early access.
Until next time,
Celebrate your fandom. I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Otaku Mom, Mystic Samurai 1983, Free Brick, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Lunar Works, Link Pendrago, Observer Bellis, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Crow Calum, Saul Soto, Tristan Riggin, Major, Winter's Edge, Sneer Cachette, Sunbro Torian, Dionysus, Caitlin P, Sogai CH, Sith Lord 906, Vladimir Ovna, The Taz 96, Kengo X77, and Alistair Bernadotte. Thank you all so much.